I will speak to the governor of Missouri and his wife, the First Lady of Missouri, to find out how a state in the American heartland can cooperate with China. And by the way, they were students coming to China early in their days. And you're watching World Insight with Tian Wei, coming to you live Monday to Friday on CGTN. China-U.S. relations have progressed in recent days thanks to U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross' visit to China, which will be followed by the U.S. Secretary of State, Mr. Rex Tillerson's upcoming visit. And states in the U.S. also have high expectations toward the bilateral relations, particularly later the visit by U.S. President Trump to China. Missouri is well known for its abundant rice crop and cutting-edge agricultural technology, and Missouri boasts the second largest number of farms in the U.S. China is now the third largest trade partner and export market for Missouri. Last year, Missouri exported $1.8 billion worth of goods to China, a whopping 70% increase from 10 years ago. And I'm honored to be joined in the Beijing studio by the governor of the state of Missouri, Sheena Greitens. Welcome, sir, to our program.
It's great to be on with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to Beijing.
Thank you.
The same welcome to the First Lady of the state of Missouri, Dr. Sheena Greitens. She's been doing China study research for a long time. Finally, you're here.
Thank you. Very good to be here.
Great to have both of you here.
Great to be here.
Mr. Governor, I want to start with you.
Yes.
As a Navy SEAL,
yes.
of course, you've traveled around the world, but this is, once again, your visit to China. It's like an old, beautiful story renewed.
It really is. You know, the very first country that I ever traveled to was China. I came here in 1993.
First foreign country
It was my first foreign country I ever traveled to was China. First foreign city I ever set foot in was Beijing. And it's amazing to see the transformation that's taken place here over the course of the last 24 years.
1993 as an exchange student, and now very different as the governor from the state of Missouri. I know you're here to do some real serious business.
Absolutely.
Tell me more about that.
So this is actually our very first trade mission is also to China. And it's in part because of the importance that we're placing on the relationship between Missouri and China. We already have some really extensive trade relationships, including over $1 billion in trade between Missouri and China. And our objective here is to increase those trade relationships, also create opportunities for investment. For Missouri companies to invest in Chinese companies, for Chinese companies to invest in Missouri, and then finally to really build on the kind of cultural and educational exchanges which we already have. There's already a very strong foundation of Chinese students studying in Missouri. We have Missouri students who are coming abroad to study here in China, and we believe that those person-to-person relations are incredibly important.
Both of you understand that really well.
Yes.
I guess Sheena was also, as a student coming to China, 2008, that was the time when Beijing was hosting the Olympic Games. They say dramatic change happened since that day in China. Sheena.
对，我2008年
Oh my God, you're speaking Chinese to me right now. Very fluent.
在北京语言大学里的水，
欢迎，欢迎。
北京人、中国人都很欢迎我，
So can we speak English now for our audience?
Yes, now we'll
Yeah.
speak English.
2008, you were here as a student.
I was, and that was a summer of tremendous excitement in Beijing, and a great time to be a student here because you really got to see the transformation in China and the sort of, internationalization in some ways of Beijing as a city that hosted the Olympics. And it was a tremendously exciting time to be a student and a very welcoming experience for me. So it's really, a pleasure to be back here.
Just look at the way Mr. Governor is looking at you just now when you were speaking Chinese. He is absolutely proud of the First Lady.
I am so proud of Sheena for so many reasons. But she has, on this trip, it's been wonderful to have her here with me because she has so many old friends in China. Who she's had the opportunity to connect with, to talk with, because she speaks Mandarin. It's really helped us to facilitate a lot of wonderful meetings.
I would assume other governors of the United States are very jealous about this reality right now. Having said that, though, you're coming here as a governor. We see different layers of China-U.S. relationship going on. At the central government level, we heard about President Trump likely to visit China later this year in November. And of course, there have been a lot of state relationship with China as well. So how much do you think your layer of relationship matter in the overall map? Is it going to be the stabilizing factor or actually the uncertain factor?
You know, I actually think that the subnational relationships are incredibly important. The relationships between the state of Missouri and our sister province is Hebei, actually, and we actually just met with some folks from Hebei. I think those kinds of relationships are extraordinarily important. We've had the opportunity to meet with a number of senior government officials to share with them what's happening in Missouri. I'll give you one concrete example.
Sure.
Missouri is now the world leader in agricultural technology. So we have more plant scientists in the state of Missouri than any other place in the world. There's a lot of research that's being done in animal science, and given that work, recognizing the tremendous agricultural transformation that's also happening in China, we think there are wonderful opportunities to build mutually beneficial, win-win, prosperous relationships for both
But you know, you're
countries.
going to have a lot of competitions, both from other states in the United States. They're also very active here. From the European countries as well. Some of the Asian countries is also very active here. So how are you going to bring out your competitive edge?
Well, I think there are a number of things that really distinguish Missouri. First of all, it's an incredibly stable financial environment. So for over 50 years, Missouri's had a AAA credit rating. We also want to let people know about what my administration is bringing. I recently was elected governor, and as governor, we pursued thank you very much. We pursued a number of reforms: labor reform, legal reform, regulatory reform, tax reform, to create a pro-growth, pro-jobs business environment in Missouri. As we want, you know, our colleagues and potential private companies who we might work with in China to know that Missouri has a very welcoming business environment, and we look forward to increasing trade opportunities between the two countries.
But Mr. Governor, if I can, earlier there was some situations of riots and chaos in your state. Of course, you were very firm in exercising the necessary measures in your state, but people are still asking, is this environment stable for foreign investment, for example?
Yes, Missouri has a very stable environment for foreign investment. It's a very stable fiscal environment, and it's also, as you mentioned, it's a very stable social environment. You know, we were very clear as governor that, you know, everyone in the United States, everyone has the Constitution guarantees them rights to free speech, it guarantees them rights to assembly, and we're happy to, anyone who's peacefully protesting, we will protect people who are peacefully protesting. But we have no tolerance for violence or for vandalism. Anyone who decided that they were going to break a window or assault a law enforcement officer, they were arrested and taken to jail.
You were saying in your Facebook page about your decision to put out this violence and riot. Then you said the previous administration might allow them to happen, but it is not on your clock.
That's right, not on our watch.
But that's going to be very controversial, I guess, from a certain perspective.
Well, I have to tell you, it's been so much support from people in Missouri and from the business community, because what they'd seen in the past was that we did have leaders who would often allow people what they called a safe space to loot or to burn. And we were very clear that there will be no looting, that there would be no burning, that we were not going to tolerate any kind of violence or vandalism, and that immediately we were going to step in and arrest people who engaged in that behavior. Because, you know, everyone in Missouri, we all have an interest in peace.
The other thing, of course, China has been accusing the United States recently of exercising protectionism actions about not letting a Chinese company to acquire a chip maker in the United States. Of course, these kind of cases coming up and down from time to time, but the question is whether we are having real fair environment for foreign investment, for example, from China.
Sure, you know, I think that it's really important to facilitate you know, trade and investment relationships between the United States and China. That's always been a very, very strong part of the U.S.-China relationship, going all the way back to the founding of the United States in the 1770s. That commercial and economic relationship was really important. Yes, and so, you know, I think that the states also play a really important role. Now, every country has certain exceptions that they might make to trade relationships for national defense. Every country is entitled to do that, but I think that, you know, especially at the state level, it's really important to focus on areas where there's a lot of room for collaboration, and that, you know, is why we're particularly excited in Missouri about agricultural technology, biotech, and life sciences, and personally, as a faculty member at the university, at one of our universities, the University of Missouri, you know, which also has very strong agricultural programs, I'm delighted to look at and try to think about what kinds of educational and cultural partnerships we can have, because, you know, we believe that the foundation of the U.S.-China relationship is really in the people-to-people relationship, and that is the foundation of the sort of the higher level relationships. And we've seen that even with, you know, President Xi Jinping's relationship with the American Midwest, and Iowa started as a people-to-people exchange relationship, and so that we really prioritize
that. Has been proved many, many times as the people-to-people relations, the real fabric over there.
And I'd say in addition to that, you know, when you consider that the United States and China are the two largest economies in the world, and I have to say, you know, I had a lot of experience before I became governor working in developing countries around the world. And so I've worked in dozens of developing countries.
Afghanistan, Iraq, and even Southeast Asian countries, Africa as well.
Yeah, and did that work as a Navy SEAL. I also did a lot of international humanitarian work. I've worked in Bosnia, Rwanda, Albania, Bolivia, worked in India. And one of the things that you recognize in the developing world is how important economic growth is, how important that kind of prosperity is, especially in developing countries. And I think that when you consider that you add the United States GDP and China's GDP, you're talking about 40%, over 40% of the GDP in the world, you recognize how important it is for our two countries to work together and create an even more prosperous relationship.
It's a beautiful explanation, but Mr. Governor, you know, things happen, and therefore China investment in the United States had a lot of problems earlier with CFIUS, for example. That is the organizations that usually talking about certain technologies are dual use. They could be civil use, it could also be military use, including probably life science, agricultural science as well, that you are very proud of. So in that case, how is the governor, let's just say from the state of Missouri, going to help your business and going to promote this kind of business no matter what?
Well, I think for example, in agriculture, it's a wonderful area to explore. One of the things that we recognize both in the United States and China is that over the course of the next generation, we're going to have to double world food production. And there's a lot of challenges and opportunities that are facing agriculture in China, lots of challenges and opportunities that are facing agriculture in the United States. And when we can jointly develop and invest in these kinds of agricultural technologies that are going to help us to feed the world, I think that we're meeting a critical need for people, for a safe quality food source, and it also can be a very prosperous relationship. We've had a lot of, you know, agriculture is still our #1 industry in the state of Missouri. Got over 250,000 people employed in agriculture, 108,000 family farms, major companies, major universities, and research institutes, all devoted to this. And I think that that's just one example of where working together, we can find ways to solve problems together and also create a very prosperous relationship.
Very interesting. I think the rest of the world is watching the United States. That is, people see unpredictability from time to time. So as a governor and as the first lady of an important state, how are you going to make sure that your work is free from unpredictability? So, you know, our mission is very clear, and that's more jobs and higher pay for the people of Missouri. And in order for us to build that kind of thriving and prosperous economy in Missouri, we recognize that trade relationships around the world, including with China, one of our most important trading partners, are important to enhance. And in order to enhance those relationships, I mean, you really put your finger on it, that kind of predictability is very important. And that's one of the reasons why I think people so appreciate the opportunity to invest in and buy from and work with Missouri, because it is such a predictable environment. Okay, are you going to, are you going to, you know, at times pick up a phone or write a letter to the president, to the Commerce Secretary, and say, you know, we want stable relationship with China because we are having this wonderful conversation with China during my trip there, and our people want to have ties with them. We're always going to advocate for the interests of the people of Missouri. So, for example, Sonny Perdue, the Secretary of Agriculture, he made wonderful beef trade relationship with China, which Ambassador Branstad helped to facilitate. That was obviously in the interest of farmers and ranchers throughout the United States, but that was a place where it was very important
for Missouri as well. We're always advocates to the federal government about what's in the best interests of Missouri, especially when it comes to creating a thriving and prosperous economy.
But it has to be mutually beneficial too.
Yes.
Yeah, and I will also say that as part of that predictability, that's part of why we were really excited to come to China and to come to Asia as our first trade mission, and we've tried to emphasize throughout the trip that this is the first trip, but that we both plan to be back here regularly, that we plan to be here on a regular basis, building those ties in a very consistent and predictable way that will benefit, the people of Missouri, jobs in Missouri, and also be beneficial to the people that we're interacting with and our counterparts in China.
And the great advantage we have, I'll just say, is that because of Sheena's experience in China, not only will I be coming back as governor, but the first lady is also going to be coming back, because we know that those kinds of regular interactions help to enhance that level of predictability and understanding.
Yeah, we didn't have much time, but I'm willing to discuss all the modern China history and Qing Dynasty history with you, Sheena, next time you're here in our studio. But having said that, we're running out of time for now. This is how time flies when friends are talking to one another. We hope to have your state coming here frequently, and certainly the people-to-people exchanges you're talking about.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely crucial. Thank you so much, Governor Sheena Greitens.
Thank you.
And First Lady Dr. Sheena Greitens.
Thank you. Thank you very much.